We came for a 2.5 mile loop and ended up hiking 6.25 miles because Banning State Park is an amazing place to explore. The Kettle River Rapids, peering into potholes carved by Ice Age floods, standing on 1 billion-year-old sandstone, and wandering past a quarry whose stone built Minnesota. We're talking about courthouses, the Capitol Dome. This short hike became an all-day wander. Welcome back to our Minnesota State Parks Hiking Club series. Today, we're at Banning State Park taking on the Quarry Loop Trail. This is a route that blends history, geology, and river scenery in a way few parks can match. We're going to walk through the remains of a 19th century sandstone quarry that once supplied building stone across Minnesota, and we're going to walk along the Earth's crust that is older than the dinosaurs before we watch some people enjoy a leisurely kayak down the river. Banning has it all. First, let's go over the stats. The Quarry Loop Trail is 2.5 miles with 124 feet of elevation gain. Counting connectors and side trips, we logged around 6.28 miles, so just over 10 kilometers. Between the park's histories, its winding trails, and the bonus of a waterfall along the way, how do you say no to that? So let's go hiking, and we're going to explain all about how we made a 2.5 mile hike 6 miles, and we're going to talk about the history, and we're going to see a waterfall. And we're going to talk about some geology. Woo! It's a great trail. Let's go. The trail starts around 1 mile from the visitor center from the second parking area. And as soon as you get onto this trail, the forest just closes in almost immediately. Within minutes, you're walking through the heart of what was once the Banning Sandstone Quarry. The story of Banning's Quarry begins in the 1890s when the St. Paul and Duluth Railroad built a spur line to tap into the high-quality sandstone here. But this wasn't just any rock, it was Hinckley sandstone, prized for its durability and color. Workers cut massive blocks of Banning sandstone with its warm pink tones that seemed to glow in the sun. Those blocks found their way into some of Minnesota's most recognizable landmarks: St. Paul's Landmark Center, Minneapolis City Hall, courthouses from Duluth to Pipestone, post offices across the Iron Range, and even the Minnesota State Capitol features a band of this sandstone inside its dome. On the University of Minnesota campus, Pillsbury Hall and the Burton Hall still showcase that same sandstone quarried right here along the Kettle River, while small-town main streets statewide carry its legacy in their historic facades. At its peak, the quarry employed hundreds of men, using chisels, steam drills, and derricks to free and lift the stone. That booming industry came to a sudden halt on September 1st, 1894, when the Great Hinckley Fire tore through this region. It destroyed towns, forests, and rail infrastructure, but the quarry was able to reopen within a couple of years. By 1896, a new village was platted on the fields above the quarry and named Banning, in honor of William L. Banning, president of the railroad. The town quickly grew to around 300 residents, with a school, 2 hotels, a store, a saloon, and a post office. Quarrying here continued until the early 1900s, but the easy-to-reach zone was soon depleted, and demand shifted towards structural steel. By 1905, large-scale quarrying had ended. The Barber Asphalt Company kept a smaller operation going for a few years, but by 1912, the town was essentially abandoned. The tracks were removed, the buildings vanished, and the forest slowly reclaimed the land. Today, only stone foundations and rusted relics remain, scattered amongst the pine and the birch. Okay, you'll notice we just passed the hiking club trail sign, but then you'll also see there's a waterfall sign. What would you do? We're going to go check out this waterfall. I mean, how can you resist a spur trail that's called Dead Man's Trail? Adds a little bit to the hike, but hey, we wanted to see the waterfall, so off we went.
Quarter of a mile, so we're almost there.
You will be adding over 2 miles round trip to visit Wolf Creek Falls. I will say it's worth it. It's a super fun hike.
There's like an easier path that way. It's not bad.
The hike has some fun rock scrambles before coming up on what I thought was a really beautiful waterfall. It's only around 12 feet tall, but it has a nice flow into a very idyllic pool. And I don't know, just had a nice sort of magic waterfall in the woods vibes. Looks like a good swimming hole, and definitely a lot of people were coming down to check it out. And just like that, after taking the High Bluff Trail and the Dead Man's Trail connector, we are right back where we started from. And honestly, this might be one of the coolest parts of this hike. Beneath this old quarry is a raised block of ancient crust. That's right. It is basically a slab of rock that was pushed up above the land around it more than 1 billion years ago, during the Precambrian period, when deep forces tried to split North America in two. That split, the mid-continental rift, never finished, but it left behind these high ridges and deep basins all across the region. So over the ages, ice sheets have scraped across it, rivers have cut into it, and here at the Kettle River, it's been carving its way through the sandstone cap, leaving behind these cliffs and ledges and glacial potholes we see today. And it is a piece of geological history so old that even the dinosaurs would be newcomers here. How cool is that? You are standing on a piece of over billion-year-old geological history. And yes, it is fun to go jump around on these rocks. I would say be very cautious, but it was a lot of fun.
Now that's obviously man-made.
Part of being a responsible hiker is you're always faced with decisions and choices to make. And when you have a map and you know how far it is, and you see a little spur trail called Hell's Gates Rapids, you make the right choice and you go, I'm going to check out this spur trail. The trail runs alongside the Kettle River, and the gorge here drops as much as 40 feet in places, cutting into the sandstone by thousands of years of relentless flow. Along the cliffs are these glacial potholes, perfectly round holes carved at the end of the last ice age when swirling meltwater spun stones against the bedrock like giant drill bits. Some are small enough to fit in your hand. Others are big enough to climb in. And check this one out. We actually took a 360 camera and stuck it all the way in there so we could safely get some footage. And it's neat. It actually gets wider at the bottom than it is at the top, but it's such a neat round formation and very unique. You do not see this along every river.
Wow. And this was naturally made. I wonder how long this took to make. Well, that's crazy.
And while we do this time lapse, I will say the Quarry Loop Trail itself is easy. If you do any of these spur trails, this Hell's Gate Trail definitely involves some tough scrambles up some rocks. A lot of fun, but definitely not for the uninitiated. Once upon a time, let's say way back during the last ice age, this is where the Kettle River would have been. And you would have heard a bunch of noise as rocks carved this glacial pothole. So this gives you a really good idea of how far down the river has gone over thousands and thousands of years.
It's like a playground for trail people.
And we are starting to come up on Hell's Gate. This is where the Kettle River squeezes into one of its most powerful stretches. Even outside of the spring runoff, the water charges through a narrow sandstone channel, foaming over the ledges and swirling into deep holes. And in high water, paddlers take on a series of Class 4 rapids here with names like Blueberry Slide, Mother's Delight, Dragon's Tooth, and Little Banning. But even on a quiet day, you can feel the power in the air, and we were lucky enough to see some kayakers taking on these rapids as we're walking. You'll see that a little bit later on in the video. It looks like a lot of fun. The ruin you're about to see here, this is the powder room where they kept all the gunpowder for blasting when the quarry was active, because they would keep the gunpowder separate from all the other equipment and only bring out what they needed when it was needed. And just like that, we are back on the Quarry Loop Trail. So when you add in Wolf Creek Falls and when you add in Hell's Gates Rapids, it definitely makes this hike closer to 6 miles. But hey, for sure, this is going to be a Tazumi Woods approved hike. I 100% recommend you get out there and check it out. Banning State Park is awesome. The woods were awesome. The hikes were awesome. Scrambling over the rocks was awesome. So everybody get out there and check it out because, like I said, it is awesome. Yeah, it's a really good park. You should definitely check it out. For sure, Tazumi Woods approved.
All right.
The second half of the Quarry Loop Trail is where you're going to see most of the Banning Sandstone Quarry ruins. There's a lot of really cool ruins that you can check out and some that you could even climb on and explore. Do be careful. You're going to see me walking across these ledges, so if you decide to follow, just again, please be careful. It's really neat the way you can actually get hands-on and explore the history and ruins here. So make sure you're very respectful of that when visiting, because most parks don't let you get this close to ruins and everything, but it's really neat to be standing in what was once an old crushing room or what was once an old power station and just try to imagine this quiet, peaceful state park as a hustling and bustling, thriving place of work where hundreds of people were actively quarrying and chiseling and hammering stone right out of the ground. You can see evidence of quarrying all around you. There's a group of kayakers enjoying the Kettle River, and I gotta say, they looked like they were having a lot of fun. And make sure you watch your step because it is a long way down from some of these sandstone cliffs. And from here, the loop closes out back where we began, past the quarry walls and back to the trailhead. In just over 6 miles, we've walked through a century of human history and over 1 billion years of geological history. Proof that in Minnesota, some of the best hikes come from stories older than dirt. Literally. Thank you so much for watching this video where we hiked the Quarry Loop Trail in Banning State Park. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see everyone out there hiking in the woods. Bye-bye, y'all.